After a year off from any Central Assassin's Creed games for the first time since the series debuted 10 years ago, Ubisoft returns with Origins. With new combat mechanics, a focused RPG system, and the biggest map to date, Origins is the freshest take on the series in quite some time. Assassin's Creed Origins stars Bayek of Siwa, his wife and fellow badass Aya, and their quest for vengeance due to the murder of their son. Bayek is a solid protagonist, showing layers of depth, emotion, and drive that you would come to expect of a typical assassin. What the game doesn't tell you is that fairly often, you're paired up with Aya to complete your missions. Sometimes, you even get to control her character. Those made for some of my favorite moments in the game, and I wish my time was split more evenly between the two. Ubisoft struck the perfect balance in 2015's Assassin's Creed Syndicate, with twins Jacob and Evie Fry, who ended up being two of my favorite assassins in the entire decade-long history of the franchise. Though the balance isn't quite what it should be here, the player controls Aya during a late-game assassination that will stick with me for years to come. For what it's worth, the story is written in a way that gives a good explanation, or excuse, as to why Aya isn't featured more prominently, and the relevance of Bayek and Aya to the birth of the Creed cannot be understated. Though Bayek and Aya are the central figures in the game, one could argue that the real star is the vast, sprawling land of Egypt. An Egyptian-based Assassin's Creed game had been rumored for a long time, and in a way, I'm glad Ubisoft waited to develop this recreated landscape until the series reached the prime of the Xbox One and PlayStation 4 era. It needs every ounce of those systems' power, and would not have been remotely possible on last-gen consoles. Let's get one thing straight. The graphics are gorgeous, with breathtaking landscapes found around every corner. The map of Egypt is absolutely massive, and I'm not quite sure I can articulate just how big it is. The problem is, it's too big. More on that in a moment. What Origins gets right with regards to the map is its varied environments. Day and night both have different feels altogether. Riding across the sandy desert on camelback under the moonlit sky is an experience I can't say I've had in gaming, or in real life for that matter. In the different regions of the map, you'll find different sites and structures, which helps the world to feel truly vast and almost endless. By the time my 33-hour playthrough was up, I had visited the majority of the map, but still had a moderately sized collection of unvisited locales to discover. One common misconception with modern video games is that bigger is better, and that is often not the case. With Assassin's Creed Origins, it certainly is not. Though it was fun at times galloping across the map to the different destinations I needed to complete my missions, fast travel, when available, was my preferred choice every single time. Of course, in order to unlock fast travel for a given location, you needed to have visited that place. Some regions or towns were so big that they had multiple fast travel points. Origins is the first true RPG version of an Assassin's Creed. This was an option for the developer thanks to the brief pause in annualized releases. The game features a leveling up system that is fairly expansive. There's nothing that reinvents the wheel here for longtime RPG fans, though. Your character is assigned a numbered level, and you gain access to the next level by earning experience points. Earning experience points can be done in a few ways, but is mostly limited to tasks such as completing main and secondary missions and taking down enemies. Once leveled up, you can spend upgrades on combat maneuvers, finishing moves, and a plethora of other items. You can upgrade the aesthetics of things like weapons and outfits, but they're largely meaningless. Microtransactions are a hot, if not controversial word in gaming these days, and they don't pass finding their way to Assassin's Creed. They're largely a non-factor, because this is a single-player game where your competitive advantage isn't generally determined by how much real-life currency you're willing to spend. A second misconception in modern gaming is that the freedom of choice leads to a more enriching experience. That might work in games like Minecraft or Heavy Rain, but not here. In order to be eligible to play the next main mission on my list in the story, I had to level up my character to within 2 levels of the required number for that specific mission. For example, if the story mission required Bayek to be at level 10 to start it, I could be as low as level 8. Sadly, this was all too often the norm, and once I progressed past the game's first third or so, I was always playing catch-up. Rarely did I have the required level needed when a new story mission became available, requiring me to grind away on side missions. The problem with that is that the side missions were often boring or otherwise repetitive. A citizen always had a random problem, and the solution to the problem was to assassinate someone. A little extreme for sure, but sometimes it was warranted. These missions generally offered a fraction of the experience points earned from a story mission, and what's worse is I would usually have to travel to a different region to find side missions to even start. Once there, I would discover lower level missions that gave me an even lesser amount of experience points. Rinse, lather, repeat. As I mentioned previously, the story surrounds Bayek and Aya. However, the greater arc features not just the start of the Assassin's Brotherhood, but jumps back to the ever-confusing modern-day Abstergo story. Frankly, this concept should have probably died with Assassin's Creed 3. The one found in Origins doesn't even totally connect to any of the past games we've seen. There is one slightly cool call out towards the end of the game, as our new Abstergo employee meets a character with a famous last name, but that doesn't even reach a satisfying conclusion, nor does it feel that this would be continued in future AC games. With regards to the founding of the Brotherhood, I was underwhelmed to find that this was really only touched on in the game's final handful of missions. The way it comes together with Bayek and Aya is truly epic, and I must admit that I let out a few audible choice words to express my excitement. The writers did a fine job of tying together the very end, from the explanation of the logo, to the way that the Brotherhood was able to spread across the region so quickly, to the very opening moments of the Creed. I'm just upset it took so long to get there. Another major facelift for the game comes in the form of the combat system. While I thought this was a neat change of pace early on, I found later that the system wasn't without its flaws. Of course, don't consider taking on enemies that are superior to your character's level by more than a few levels. It won't end well. In an actual one-on-one, or one-on-many, you have the ability to block, parry, and build up a meter to unleash one of multiple kinds of a chain attack. This is all dependent on what kind of weapon you have. You'll find upgraded weapons throughout your time in Egypt, and the game does a nice job making these accessible to the gamer. In other words, you won't find yourself grinding and pulling your hair out for those. The same goes for shields. You can also gather resources to craft upgrades for your hidden blade, your overall health, and other items such as how many arrows you can carry in your quiver. Assassin's Creed Origins is the freshest take on the series since the early days of the franchise. It does well what most other games in the series have traditionally done well anyway, though it stumbles with others. And the grinding. Oh boy, the grinding. 33 hours is nearly 3 times the normal length of the average main campaign for an Assassin's Creed game. That's fine and dandy, however the gamer shouldn't be sacked with an unbalanced upgrade system that forces them to play meaningless side missions in order to get a ticket to the big show. If you like video games, you can check out our Monster Hunter World review right at youtube.com/thegeekiverse, and if you're interested in more Assassin's Creed, go to thegeekiverse.com to read about our ranking of the mainline Assassin's Creed games. For everything video games, movies, comics, and TV, you're already in the right place, thegeekiverse.com.